and subscribers, welcome again to another presentation. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We are looking at the fourth seal. Previously, we did have an upload already of the fourth seal. However, we have prayerfully decided to do a re-upload of this lesson with a little bit more in-depth information. We believe it is very important to also connect the prophetic events of the book of Chazun or Revelation to what was prophetically uttered by the Nabim or prophets of old, speaking of those in the Tanakh, and even connecting that which is said in the removed books. As people of the Most High, Abri people, it is important for us to read from the beginning, to also read what the system decided to remove from scripture, and to connect prayerfully by the chakmah or wisdom of the Most High Yahuwah all that is detailed in scriptures. So we're first going to take a look at what the Nabim would have prophetically declared as Yahuwah gave them utterance. And we're looking at patterns really, because there is nothing new under the sun. So we are going line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. So we will not be covering extensively all scriptures that may relate to the fourth seal, but we will cover as many as we can in a reasonable time to help others to have a clearer understanding of what is happening in the scriptures. All right, let us begin.
Yarm-Yehu, Jeremiah 14:12. Although they may fast, I will not listen to their cry. Although they may offer burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Instead, I will finish them off by sword and famine and pestilence.
This is what Sovereign Yahweh says. Clap your hands in horror and stamp your feet. Cry out because of all the detestable crimes the people of Israel have committed. Now they are going to die from war and famine and disease. Yakazakel, Ezekiel 6:11.
Yakazakel, Ezekiel 14:3. Son of man, these leaders have placed other mighty ones in their hearts. They have embraced things that will make them fall into transgression. Why should I listen to their requests? Verse 21. For this is what Sovereign Yahweh says. How much worse will it be when I send against Shalum my 4 dire judgements, sword, famine, wild beasts, and pestilence, in order to cut off from it both man and beast.
We will observe, of course, that there is a pattern. Just remember what these particular verses were speaking of. There's like a recurring theme of 4 judgments that are against those who are in disobedience, the people of the Most High in disobedience to Him, sword, famine, wild beasts, pestilence. We want to remember this as we're moving along through the rest of the presentation.
Amos 8:11-13. The time is surely coming, says sovereign Yahuwah, when I will send a famine on the land, not a famine of bread or water, but of Shamahar Dabarimomot, hearing the words or commandments or truth of Yahuwah. People will stagger from sea to sea and wander from border to border, searching for the word or truth of Yahuwah, but they will not find it.
Beautiful girls and strong young men will grow faint in that yum, thirsting for Yahuwah's word of truth.
So we see here in Amos, but the Nabi Amos is speaking as Yahuwah grants him utterance, saying there's also another type of famine that Yahuwah will send upon the earth. And this famine is speaking to a famine of His truth. He says in His word, people are going to be searching for truth desperately, but will not be able to find it. They're going to thirst for the truth of the word. There is so much confusion and so many forms of interpretations going on out here that we see this has already started to take form because of all the confusion and every man trying to profess that what he believes is truth. There is a great deal of confusion, but there is only one truth. So one truth will arise, and every other thing or every other thought, view, perception, interpretation is false. There can only be one truth. Yahuwah is truth. And He's saying there is going to be a famine for hearing truth. In the Abri, you would hear Hashama, Hadabarim. So the hearing of the truth of Yahuwah, or Shama Hadabarim Amat, hearing the truth of the word, or hearing the word of truth. So this is also another type of famine that will cause or lead up to great devastation, and this has already begun to take form by confusion and all different entities, various religious groups professing truth, but there is only one truth. But we continue, as we also want to see what Yahusha has said, or be reminded of what Yahusha says happens in the end times, and connect them to the prophetic vision of Yahukanan, or John in Chazun, or Revelation.
Ethnicity will fight against ethnicity. Rain will fight against rain. There shall be scarcities of food, deadly diseases, earthquakes in places, and these are the beginning of birth pains. Chazun, Revelation 4, verse 6-8. Also in front of the throne there was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. In the center, around the throne, were 4 living creatures, and they were covered with eyes, in front and in the back. The first living creature was like a lion, the second was like an ox or calf. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Each of the four living creatures had 6 wings, and was covered with eyes all around. Even under its wings, day and night, they never stopped saying, Kodash, Kodash, Kodash is Yahuwah al-Shadi, who was and is to come.
Yahu, or Jeremiah 48:40. For this is what Yahuwah says, behold, one will fly swiftly like an eagle and spread out his wings against Moab. The context of Jeremiah 48 is speaking of a specific nation being warned. But what we're bringing out here is the use or reference of an eagle spreading out its wings against a nation, symbolizing some sort of warning of impending judgment that is coming upon a nation or a land or a territory. And observe that the fourth creature in Chazun is like an eagle. Let's hear what is said.
Chazun, or Revelation 6:7-8. When the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, Come. I looked, and there, before me, was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death. In Hebrew, the word is Muth. And Sheol, or the grave, was following, close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth, to take lives by sword, famine, pestilence, and wild beasts of the earth.
Do we see where there is a repeat of the 4 judgments that the Most High Yahweh would have spoken of in Yaramiyahu as well as in Yahazakal? I hope we're connecting the dots here. So the fourth horse has a very unique color. And the Greek word that is used to describe this pale horse is pluros, which we can recognize from certain common words in English, such as chlorine or chlorophyll, chloroform. And what we know of these words is that they are associated with a greenish tinge. Some persons may readily be able to picture this from chlorophyll in plants. So it's a greenish, yellowish tinge or color. And you'll see this horse in some pictures depicted as looking like a pale greenish look. And we've attempted to do that here, but we're going to get into more details about what is said. So Yahukanan's description of what follows the breaking of the fourth seal is similar and yet very progressive in nature to the seals that were previously broken. We see for these first 4, the 4 creatures that are mentioned are the ones who call forth the first 4 events. Notice the correlation of the nature of the creatures that are calling forth the judgments. These are entities that oftentimes are somehow related to the way in which these judgments are released or take form. 4 horses appear in response to the four creatures calling forth the events to begin. Each horse has a color and a rider. So there are similarities. And of course, all these colors are symbolic. Nothing in scripture is without explanation or without some level of importance. So the nature of the vision, speaking of a horse, we kept speaking of power and speed and authority. So whatever is happening or is to happen takes place in a powerful way. It happens swiftly or speedily. Um, the colors have representations. In this particular seal, the pale greenish tinge tells you something is fading or dying. So something that was once vibrant is fading or dying. And if you look at some of these movies, the way they depict when life is going, it's a pale look. Uh, some of them even use the effects of a pale greenish hue to depict something that is scary or something that has died or passed. Um, and all these horses have a rider or a bearer or a carrier of the event or events that take place. The fourth creature, the eagle, we would have looked at comparing this to the eagle that spread out its wings against Moab, looking at the fact that the fourth creature representing the eagle, what is like an eagle, we notice also with the prophetic utterance previously, it says one like an eagle. So the same sort of language is used like an eagle. So the characteristics of an eagle is brought out in relation to calling forth the judgment following the fourth seal being broken. The color of this fourth horse is pale, or in Greek, chloros, which translates to a yellowish greenish pigment. And we would have already looked at this just now. Now the rider is given a name. In one of my previous uploads, someone in the comment section would have associated the various judgments with some pagan mythology, Roman and Greek mythology. And the person made the statement that the rider on the fourth horse is called Death, and Hades. If you recognize, we do not say some words. In most cases, it is either associated with or the name of another mighty one. We invite you to watch our video on 12 words you may hear Abri people of the Most High not say, and why, if you're new to the channel. But let's continue. So the person would have associated it with some sort of mythology. But let's look closely at the script or the scripture. This person in the comments said that the writer has two names and is represented by two things. That's not what the scripture says. There's only one writer, only one writer. The writer is given a name, and that name in the Abrith or Hebrew is Muth. And of course, the Greek representation is the same, which means Death. Another name is given, but this name is not for the same rider. And we don't say DEATH. In this case, it's because of the algorithms of YouTube and all of that. But the other character that is described is behind the horse and rider. The script says that it is closely coming behind. So it's different from the rider. And this separate entity is called Hades in the Greek, but in the Abrith or Hebrew, it's Shaul, or most will know Sheol. And this translates to the grave. So the rider is bringing forth the cessation of life by virtue of its name and nature. And behind the horse and rider, the grave is coming. All right. So power is given to the entities. Let's look carefully. The Abrith word is tukaf, or some may say tukaf, and the Greek exousia. So this power also translates to ability or delegated influence or authority or strength. So authority or strength or power was given or granted. This shows us that these entities have no power of their own. The grave has no power of its own. DEATH, cessation of life, has no power of its own. They were given or assigned this power. And we will continue and look at what is happening. Notice this authority or this power that is granted is not only granted to the rider on the horse in this particular event or events, these events, but also to the grave. So power and authority was given to them and not just the rider. Not just the rider. Authority and power was given to them over. The same word that translates to over here also translates to in or upon. So power or authority was given to them over or in or upon. This particular power or authority, delegated authority, was limited. So another characteristic is that whatever power they were given, whatever authority they were given, was limited or confined to a particular portion or a portion. And this is a fourth of the, in Hebrew, aratz or Adam. And this means earth, land, or country, or nations. So power or authority was given to both of them over or in a fourth of the earth, or a fourth of the land, or a fourth of countries, or a fourth of nations. Are we seeing how this takes on a clearer form when we look at the original languages? All right, let's do some math. Now, according to worldometers.info, the current population stands at approximately 8.1 billion people. And of course, if we want to be a little bit more specific, maybe by the time you look at it, it will look like more than this, and this is why it is approximate. But the figure shown at the time of this presentation was 8,082,609,050. Now, we can opine that this is more, as there may be people in certain remote areas that have children and have not registered them in the system's census. So this may very well be more, but we'll work with what is here to give an idea of what a fourth looks like. So if this is referring to a fourth of the people currently alive, then a fourth of this figure is really a little over 2 billion people. That's more than the largest reported countries, such as India and China, and these countries. That's more than those populations. So imagine over 2 billion people losing their lives over a particular period of time. What about if this is referring to a fourth of countries or nations by virtue of the interpretation of Adama, meaning not just earth or land, but possibly countries or nations? It approximately 195 countries are said to be in existence. And if a fourth of these countries was to be wiped out through loss of lives, you're talking about approximately 49 countries being wiped off the map. So it's very interesting, be it people or nations, whatever the case may be, this is still a lot. So they were authorized to take chiyim, or some would say chayim, meaning lives, in 4 ways. What were these 4 ways? Well, the first we're told is by sword, and sword here represents weaponry. And we can think of a number of weapons that have been and are being developed and created for mass destruction and for the taking of a number of, or a great number of lives, or chiyim. So weaponry. So a number of the world's population will lose their lives through weapons of mass destruction. 2, hunger or famine. Now, if you notice, if you look back at the patterns from the previous seals, you find that seals 2 and 3 had to do with war or the use of weapons and lack or famine or hunger. So we see how the pattern is building up. Could this be an overlap and an intensifying of those, or is it that this is being added to? Remember, a seal, once a seal is open, it's not closed. We don't see where we're told that the seals have been resealed. Once they're open, they remain open. So famine is a natural byproduct of war. So hunger and famine. Now we recall in Amos, there was also another type of famine that is possibly going to run concurrently with physical famine, and that's a famine of truth, where people are trying to seek for answers and truth regarding what is really happening. What is going on? And there'll be so much confusion. People will only find false representations of truth or even anti-truth. So the third uh, way in which we're told that these characters will remove lives is through the Greek word thanatos, but we prefer the abrith representation, muth, and you can look at Strong's 4191 or 4194. And these, in this word, by interpretation, symbolizes deadly or the loss of lives naturally or violently. So, so we can see here where some will be deemed to be natural causes. Some may be by violent causes, because if you're hungry, naturally, if you don't get what you need, the body gives up. And then there's some who will go out violently. The word also translates as ruin and pestilence. Are we seeing the words coming back from the prophetic utterances of the Nabim, where Yahuwah would have said these 4 judgments I'm going to send because of your disobedience? Now, we're not saying this is only happening to the people of the Most High, because obviously, based on the number we're told of, being a fourth of Arat or Adama, it tells us that this is not only including those who would have fallen away from belief in the Most High, but also other nations that are not of the Most High, are not following the Most High, are not sealed by the Most High. So pestilence came up earlier, and based on the original context of the meaning of the words used, pestilence is one of the ways in which these characters, the writer and Sheol following, or Shaul following, will remove lives. So weapons, famine, or lack. And we know famine can also come when people can't afford to feed themselves and their families. So inflation may get even worse during this particular seal. Um, so and then of course people getting really defiant and angry, probably even breaking into homes because they're desperately hungry and they need protection and they need to feed. And we see this coming out in so many different movies. Some of the movies make it out to be a game. There's this one movie where one night out of the year, I believe it's called The Purge, um, people are allowed to just do what they want to do. Just imagine that taking place during this seal. Devastating. Um, uh, pestilence. Pestilence. Naturally, if there is war and there's a famine, various diseases and viruses may surface and become so intense that millions are losing their lives because of it. And these are deadly diseases. We look at the words that are interpreted based on 4191, Strong's 4194. So you're talking about deadly violent means, or natural means, or ruinous activities, or pestilence or plagues. And the fourth way we're told is wild beasts. And we did see this coming out in the Nabim's prophetic utterances as well. When we look at the Greek word therion, it speaks of venomous beasts or wild beasts. And we can think of some venomous beasts. Most persons may be thinking of just snakes, but there are other types of venomous beasts. You're talking about certain types of snails, such as the cone snails, or even some types of spiders, scorpions, anemones, wasps, in addition to snakes. So this word translates to venomous beasts or wild beasts. The Abrith representation for wild is Shadi or Shada. That's Strong's H7704. And it's the word that in English means field, or wild, or country, or land. For beasts, it's the word, wild beasts in the Abrith is actually Shadihi or Shadachai, which translates to field, wild, country, or land, life, H2416, or beast or creature. So put together, Shadiki or Shadachai speaks to field life or wild life. You will hear that term used, wild life, or country beasts, or wild creatures, or country creatures, or land creatures, or field creatures. So if you can think of wildlife, wild creatures, field creatures, venomous beasts, these are the types. Now, this is covering quite a number of animals that we can think of that are wild, that are venomous, you know, that are able to cause a great deal of pestilence and even the loss of lives, even the loss of Chaim. So let's look at, based on research, what is said by the World Health Organization. It is said that mosquitoes carry the most diseases or pestilence, and it's estimated that approximately 725,000 people lose their lives per year because of the diseases that are transmitted by mosquitoes. We talk about things such as malaria, dengue, and some of these are actually happening now. I know that, for example, here in Jamaica, whilst we're doing this presentation, there has been a dengue outbreak, and everyone is on their guard or their watch for these to protect themselves against it. But according to the World Health Organization, mosquitoes would be number one. When we look at Discover Wildlife, following mosquitoes being number one, these other wildlife, yeah, Shadiki or Shadachai, wildlife, account for a number of losses of lives or chai each year. So you talk about freshwater snails, removing lives of up to of approximately 200,000 per year. We talk about the saw-scaled viper, type of, and that's a snake, estimated to have caused 138,000 lives that are lost because of this creature per year. Assassin bugs that have reportedly been responsible for approximately 10,000 deaths per year. What about scorpions that are also said to be responsible for approximately the loss of lives of approximately 2,600? Ascaris roundworms, which are said to be responsible for approximately 2,500. Saltwater crocodiles, which are said to be responsible for approximately 1,000. Elephants, of course, which are said to be responsible for approximately 500 per year. And of course, hippopotamuses that share this number as well, 500 per year. These are various wildlife or wild beasts or field creatures, field beasts, based on the interpretation of the world, venomous beasts or creatures that account for wiping Chaim. Now, of course, mosquitoes remain at number one and is still a threat in a number of countries. We have to, however, recognize that these particular animals aren't in every country of the world. And so the fourth may very well be looking at particular nations, Adama, that would be hit even harder than other nations with the loss of him or lives.
Think about over 2 billion people dying during a very short period of time. Yahuwah's wrath will be so extensive, so pronounced, so overwhelmingly devastating, and so far-reaching that those who survive may tremble at the thought of further offending a very angry allure. Yahuwah will silence mankind's stubborn arrogance towards him. The fourth seal will be devastating. Interestingly, as time progresses, there are those who will still not yield to Yahuwah.
One of the removed books, Ecclesiasticus 40, verses 8 to 10, says that such things happen to all flesh, both man and beast. But this is sevenfold more upon transgressors or criminals. And we're talking about the lawless ones, those who refuse to follow the instructions of the Most High. As Scripture says that lawlessness, or sin, as some know it, is transgression of the Torah, transgression of the instructions, which of course has been interpreted by some as the law. So these things will happen sevenfold to those who are disobedient to the instructions of the Most High, to the Torah. The loss of lives, bloodshed, strife. Look at this, sword. We see the words coming out, some of these words coming out. Calamities, famine, tribulation, and the scourge, or punishment or affliction. That's what the scourge means. These things are created for the wicked, and for their sakes came the flood. So even in the removed books, we see where it is this type of judgment that is created for the wicked. we see some of the same patterns coming out with how lives are taken, based on what was also said in the seal judgment, the fourth seal. We see at least 3 here coming out in Ecclesiasticus, which is different from Ecclesiastes. This particular book, Ecclesiasticus, is also called Sirach, right? But we see here where these particular judgments are not new.
Thessalonikim, Alav, or 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3. When people are saying everything is peaceful and secure, then disaster will fall on them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pain begin, and there will be no escape. These prophetic occurrences have already started and will intensify.
Observe that once a seal is open, it remains open. Each seal is added to those previously opened, taking their toll, and they all greatly intensify as the end of this world draws near.
We are the Nazarene of Yahuwah.
And of course, we say Achad,
Ahabah,
which means
one love.
And we thank all our viewers and subscribers, all the family of the Most High, for viewing today's presentation. So remember to smash that like button
Subscribe to the channel
and hit that notification bell so that you may be alerted every time we upload.